Rustic Road Brewing Company. We're a nano brewery in Kenosha, Wisconsin. A nano brewery produces fewer than 4 barrels of beer at a time, and usually only a few hundred barrels in a year. By comparison, a microbrewery will typically produce something south of 15,000 barrels in a year, and a mega brewery will produce typically 6 million or more barrels in a year. We think about brewing in 10 easy steps. The first step is malting. Malting is not something that we actually do here. The larger breweries will malt their own grains, but most microbreweries will just buy previously malted barley from maltsters. Malting involves partially germinating the harvested barley and stopping that germination with heat and drying right before these barley hulls will sprout. And that creates a nice starchy source of for the later processes. The second step after malting is the first step that we're actually involved with, and that's milling the grain. So we're taking whole kernels of grain and we're putting it through a mill, and that'll break up each kernel into 3 to 4 to 5 smaller pieces. That exposes that starchy kernel, and which will allow the naturally occurring enzymes in the barley to break apart that starch in later phases. The third step in the brewing process is mashing. Mashing involves exposing that now milled grain to water at various temperatures, and we start with lower temperatures and work our way to higher temperatures, activating different enzymes to do different work. Breaking that starch up into short sugar chains or shorter segments, shorter molecules that yeast can actually work on. After the mash is all done, we go to the boiling phase, and the boiling is very important for a few reasons. First, it allows us to add hops and other different flavoring ingredients at different times. Boiling hops vigorously will release acids into the beer, which help to provide the bitter character that people are used to. Boiling also removes dimethyl sulfide, which is naturally occurring in grain as well, but can produce off flavors if you don't get rid of it. After the boil is all done, we cool. That's the fifth step, is we cool the beer down, or the wort. It's not beer yet, it's wort. So we cool that wort down to a temperature where we can pitch the yeast in and let it move on to the sixth step, which is fermentation. Fermentation takes anywhere from 4 or 5 days up to a couple of weeks, depending on the temperature that we're fermenting at, the type of yeast we're working with, and so on. After fermentation is complete, we'll typically let the beer condition for a while, which is basically allowing the yeast to continue to work. It works at a slow pace, but the flavors begin to settle out, I would say, in the conditioning phase. After we're done conditioning in our primary tanks, we'll actually, you could move on to another step called filtering. Most craft breweries do not filter their beer because it removes flavor. In addition to clearing the beer, you lose flavor. So most craft breweries do not do that, and we're no exception. We do not filter our beer. We do, however, move to the next stage, which is bottling or kegging the beer. You can put it into a variety of different vessels, cans, bottles, bright beer tanks for serving right at a brew pub, or kegs in our case. And after the product is bottled, we carbonate it, and then it's ready for serving. You can continue to let it condition a little bit in kegs or in another vessel if you like, but generally ours is pretty much ready to go as it is. And then the 10th and most important step is drinking the beer, so putting it into a glass and enjoying it properly.